Welcome to Level Up Tribes. Level Up Tribes provides resources to help you attain the necessary resources to level up your mind, body, and soul and realize your full potential. It is about exploring, learning, providing you with the tools from the experts for you to create a better version of yourself. I am your host, Agnes Goodwine, and welcome, Tribes. Welcome to Level Up Tribes podcast. I am based out of Phoenix. Where are you?
I'm in New Jersey, Western New Jersey, near New Hope, Pennsylvania.
I know what that is. I have family in Delaware. I'm the only one on the West Coast.
I moved to the West Coast, San Diego and San Francisco for about 8 years. But I missed my family and my friends that were all here and didn't move. So I came home.
And that's kind of where I am now.
Yeah.
I'll be 50 this year.
Congratulations.
And so the timing of our podcast is perfect. And so I'm hitting that chapter in my life where my kids are, out of the nest and I'm finding myself, and I miss my mom and I miss, my sister. So I'm kind of in the in-between stage of, do I stay? Do I go? It's a little difficult.
It is difficult. It's that old saying that leap and you'll grow wings or the angels will catch you. I had no job when I moved back. I left a job and people that I loved. It's not like I didn't have things to do when I was in San Diego, but I just figured it's always the way. Don't you think we always find a way?
Yeah. Yes.
To make it work?
We always do. So yeah. So let me give you a proper introduction. Today I have Gregory and Cox. Do you go by Greg?
Yeah, Greg is great.
She is a writer, explorer, energy worker, and certified life nutrition coach who has invested countless hours in learning about all aspects of women's health, hormones to thyroid health, genetics, and alternative options for health aging. Greg is also the creator and host of Rebellious Welness Over 50 podcast, which take on all the myths of aging, body, mind, and spirit with science-based information. You're also the author of Your Genes Do Not Determine the Size of Your Genes, which I love. So welcome again to Level Up Tribes podcast. And I want to start, I always like to start with your story and why tell your story, why do what you do to help women.
Thank you for asking and for having me, Agnes. It's one of those questions where, do we really ever know why we did what we do when we're left to our own devices, right? A lot of us do a certain path because it was laid out for us. School, the right kind of job, maybe marriage, maybe not, those kinds of things. I didn't really follow the trajectory. My grandfather was a judge. My father was a lawyer. He died young, but he was a lawyer. So that was the path that they wanted me. I wanted to be a doctor. So I've always wanted to help people. And in high school, it turns out they said I was much better with language than I was with science. So I should stick to language and psychology and things like that, which I did. And, but I just always had this desire, really. And I got into food. My first career was as a chef. And my mom, not too long before that, had died of pancreatic cancer. And during that time, for some reason, books were coming into my consciousness about healthy health from a natural standpoint, alternative health. And I didn't there was no way I could read those books and all of a sudden help my mother with them. But I kept thinking, is there a way that we can influence people by using other things than medicine and surgeries and things? And I just continued on that path. I got a certificate in nutrition. I cooked healthy food for many years. I was the chef of the first quick heart healthy restaurant in San Diego that was opened by a heart surgeon. And his theory was, and he was right in those days, that 60% of the people that he did heart surgery on didn't have to be on the operating table if they changed their lifestyle. Now we know that it's 90%.
Wow.
And that really stuck with me, that if we could influence, because I actually watched heart surgery. I stood in the OR next to the anesthesiologist when they cracked open the chest, and Dr. Daly held the heart in his hand and showed me what how the lifestyle had impacted the heart. And then what they did, they cleared it up, right? They put the new veins in and they closed it, and the heart was better. It was fantastic. But she was left with a huge incision from, basically the bottom of her ribs to the top of her throat, and recovery and the trauma of that. So that was a really big turning point for me to make this my business. And then I got tired of cooking, so I got certified as a life coach and then a weight loss coach. And I started writing about my perimenopause journey on a blog. And I had women saying, like, really? How do you know? And how did you feel? And one thing led to another, and it became Rebellious Wellness. It used to be called Midlife with a Vengeance, rather than just letting midlife roll over you. It was, let's take this thing and do it the way we want to do it. So it's the same theory, but the name just lost its impact for me. So Rebellious Wellness became, and that's kind of why I do what I do. And I've seen people have success with the messages that I brought forth. The experts that I've interviewed have helped a lot of people, and that makes me feel fabulous, really good.
Yeah, I was browsing through your episodes, amazing people that you have put together so far on your podcast. And correct me if I'm wrong, you had two podcasts?
I do have two podcasts. One is really a passion project, and I get to it now and again. It's called The Divine Wild Ride, and it's more spiritual leaning. It's for people that find themselves at the midpoint or even older saying, maybe what if this isn't all there is? What if my religion isn't all that I can be spiritually? Or maybe they don't have a religion and they want something in their lives that is grounding like that. So the kinds of people I interview on that and the things I write about are that way, which is not to say it's less important. But as you know, Agnes, we just talked about doing a podcast takes a lot of time. And we have other things that we do, right? We coach. I have another business. I write copy for coaches. So my copywriting business also keeps me busy. So I get to that when I can. I will plug my book because it's got all the chapters. It's got, how to translate the science into what to do. And you mentioned you can't eat the way you used to. It's very common as we change for us to become less adaptable to the same foods that we used to eat. And carbohydrates are one of the notorious things that throw women off their game. Yeah. Even if you were able to eat, 3 starches a day, toast in the morning or a bagel, and then maybe some kind of beans and something for lunch, and then a pasta for dinner, and you'd be fine. It's almost impossible I would say it's got to be 90% of the women that I speak to. They just need to dial it back, not to say you can't eat it. But for me, I found that I definitely felt better when I lowered the carbs. I had a little dirty little secret called Cheetos or Goldfish, those little salty snacks. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, one day I had a handful of Goldfish and I got a headache within like 10 minutes. And I thought, I wonder if this is related. Well, no, let's have them again. And again, it would happen. Same with Diet Coke. I didn't have a habit. It was just if I was out having lunch, I would have a Diet Coke. Started getting headaches. And I thought, okay, why would I do that to myself? So really, you have to pick the thing that's bugging you the most and look there first, is how I would approach it. Because everybody experiences perimenopause and menopause differently. We could say, I have hot flashes, you had hot flashes, but what does that feel to you? When does it bother, right? So you're right. We just have to take everything day by day and knowing this is going to pass, right? We've been through hard times before. We may have had illnesses before, sadnesses, and we get through them, which is not to say that makes it any easier. But if you do find some kind of a person who's been through what you are going through that can help, or a book or something, I think it's especially important at this point in time for people to have community of people like them in the moment, right? To talk about it and just, have a little pity party if you need to with somebody that understands, right? Our husbands are great. Our spouses, significant others, maybe, but how can they really understand, right? We shouldn't expect them to.
True. I know you speak about the power of 5. Can you go into some details about what that means?
Sure. So the power of 5, I like because we have lots of 5s in our lives. We have 5 fingers, 5 toes, and 5 senses. Our senses are incredibly important as we go through our days of change. Like, how am I feeling? Senses tell us how to feel. We touch something and it gives us a feeling. We see something. So it's not like sight is removed from how we feel. Our vision, our hearing, all of that. So the 5 core principles that I swear anybody can live by and be healthy and not too stressed. And number 1 is sleep. Sleep used to not be the foundation. It used to be one of the 5 and it was a circle. But since I've studied sleep lately, and Dr. Matt Walker, he's just incredible, basically scared me out of allowing sleep to be one of 5. It is now the bottom. If we don't get good sleep, we're setting ourselves up for all kinds of things. And he goes as far as saying that we can't make up for sleep. So don't think you can warrior through the week and then sleep extra on weekends. You may sleep extra, but that time that we're deprived, sleep deprived, is really detrimental. And especially for good insulin resistance, not having insulin resistance, which means the blood sugar from the food we eat is getting where it needs to in the cells and not accumulating. So sleep, and there are lots and lots of, actually, I interviewed, I did a sleep episode and I interviewed a sleep coach for anybody that wants to go to Rebellious Wellness Over 50 /podcast. And I always have a transcript if people don't have time to listen. My point being, I talk about sleep hygiene and I give, like the 5 or 10 different things that all the experts recommend to try if you can't sleep. If you have insomnia, that's going to require a little bit more than just go to bed at the same time and turn off your phone, right? That is a problem that requires the help of a professional. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia is a thing that's proven to work really well. So sleep is at the bottom. All of these 5 things, though, work in tandem. So one of the other things is fall in love with protein and fall in love with fat. And a lot of healthy food comes both with protein and fat. You mentioned pork, nothing wrong with pork. That's protein and fat. Saturated fat, not unhealthy for the people that can tolerate it. So if you think about, women notoriously don't eat enough protein. Even if they have dairy in their lives, that might be the only protein they get through it. Maybe they'll eat an egg now and again, but we have to get protein in because it is the building block of all our cells. Our bones need it, and our bones are working their way into decrepitude unless we keep them healthy, right? So protein and fat, I know a lot of women also keep the fat low in their diets. But one thing about fat is that it is a long form of energy. Sugar and carbs burn very quickly, which is why we sometimes might eat a heavy carb meal and then we're hungry in an hour or we're sleepy. So it's not giving us energy, it's diminishing our energy, and it's certainly not long fuel to burn. So it's fall in love with fat, protein at every meal and snack, sleep, movement. We have to move, not only in an exercise way, but we have to move throughout the day. Many of us we work at our desks, we watch television, we eat at a table. It's really great to get up once an hour, even if it's 5 minutes. Walk out to the mailbox, go downstairs, bounce on a bouncy ball, something to get the lymph system working and the blood flowing. And it helps with our mind. It keeps us alert just to have that movement. And any little way you can find movement during the day. They always say park far away from the grocery store, don't park right, those things are still true, that any kind of movement we can get in during the day is really helpful. But the truth of the matter is we also need more than that. We need to exercise our heart, and we need to get weight training to keep these bones and muscles. I just was editing a podcast, and I talked to a doctor who has a bone health clinic. And he said that if you don't have a lot of muscle, you likely don't have strong bones because the muscles pull on the bones to keep them exercised and strong. So as we get older, we don't tend to move as much. Maybe we don't want to do weight training. It's kind of a pain in the neck sometimes. Then we are also not helping our bones stay strong. So movement includes strength training. And then the other piece is mindset. If you think you're aging and it's all downhill from here, then what's going to happen? Like, why bother trying anything? If it's all downhill, then it's all downhill. There's nothing I can do. If I don't feel well after I eat certain things, oh, well, I like to eat them. No big deal. We have to get the mindset of, we're still here, right? We've all had friends that have died young, but we're still here, living life, enjoying life. And I know we want to keep doing that. So if we look at like, what is left for me to do? Wow, there's so much for me to do. And just because I don't feel good today, that doesn't mean I'm not going to feel good today forever. Let me find out what would help me feel better. What is it that feels worse to me right now? Like, we have to talk ourselves into the mindset of success, even though it's not a business, it's our lives. It's the same principle. So those are the 5 things that I think anybody can do pretty easily.
Yes, I know. I love them. I want to go back. You mentioned the bone density. Is there a connection with bone density in menopause?
That's a great question. There is, I wouldn't say there's a direct relationship, but there's a relationship in the sense that when estrogen diminishes in our body, estrogen is a protective hormone. It protects our heart, our brain, our bones, our muscles, all of that, which is why we feel better when we're young and we're producing lots of estrogen on a regular cycle. And as we get into menopause, of course, that does lower. Wow, look at that bottle. I love it.
Thank
Your bottle is beautiful, or your glass. Look at that. Gorgeous. So literally this doctor, again, his name is Doug Lucas. He was talking about the relationship between many things and bone health, but we talked about the whole body, regardless of menopause, perimenopause, estrogen or not, because you can replace estrogen with a bioidentical hormone. The bone strength is in relation to the health of the whole body. Some people are genetically predisposed to have weak bones. There is a gene SNP, an anomaly in some people's genes in their genome. But for most of us, it's a matter of lifestyle. And again, it may be that the estrogen is protective, but it doesn't mean that you have to take a supplement or a bioidentical hormone to keep those bones healthy. They may diminish slightly, but we can really work on them and bring them back into a state of younger, I would say, than our age.
I know you talked about alternative medicine. I love alternative medicine. Is there anything that you recommend to do that's out there that could help with like hormonal issues that is part of alternative medicine?
There are, for instance, in thyroid health, I know that there are a number of well-known practitioners. I'm trying to think of this one woman's face I can see. And they don't use hormones or they don't use synthetic thyroid. A lot of it is diet and lifestyle. Isabella Wentz, Wentz, is a person who is a natural lifestyle remedies kind of person first. Like do that first and then we'll see, because she's a Hashimoto's expert. In general, I would say that if somebody wants to go the natural route for menopausal symptom or relief of symptoms and staying healthy, to look for a naturopath. I can't make a prescription like one thing is going to work for people because it's really so individual, but somebody that's trained in alternative medicine is going to have those kinds of solutions at the ready.
You know, lately, and I know I don't want to get controversial or anything like that, but
Oh, come on.
well, trying to get rebellious maybe a little bit, but
Yes.
a lot of people are dying of like heart problems. And just Lisa
Mm-hmm.
yesterday passed away, and she wasn't that old. Um,
I know.
I don't know if people are talking about it. I mean, I haven't really dig deep into what's happening. I just feel like sooner or later there's really going to be a crisis in regards to like health because these are young people.
Mm-hmm.
Have any thoughts about that or any like preventive, measures that we should be doing? I know you practice with a heart doctor, so
The thing that got me back into the rebellious wellness business, because I really left it for a couple of years. There were too many people getting out of school in like 6 weeks and becoming a health coach. And I just felt I had to step away. But really what got me back into it was during COVID. I had a lot more time to read in the very beginning of COVID. And I started reading the statistics about women and heart disease. And I realized that nothing had changed in the past like 10 years. The statistics, they've gotten a little bit better, but women are still dying in high numbers. Heart disease is the number one killer of women. And that is tragic and avoidable in 90% of the cases. And it goes back to that lifestyle thing. Now, some people are obviously going to have a random heart attack. It will seem random, but the doctors will never be able to pinpoint it because some people come in with like a little ticking time bomb thing, an aneurysm, or they might have a stroke. But the prevention piece is not, I don't think, talked about enough, especially when it comes to diabetes, because by the time you're diagnosed with diabetes, you've had a heart problem and a problem with your insulin levels for probably 10 years. Your heart has been struggling with the inflammation that's going on in your body and the amount of sugar that's circulating. And so they then treat the diabetes with insulin which they don't need more insulin because they already have too much because they have too much sugar. It's kind of crazy, but they're not addressing the heart disease problem as much. They're not telling, I mean, both men and women, but we're talking about women, that we need to help you make some changes to your lifestyle in addition to whatever medication we're giving you, because your heart is in danger.
Yeah.
Heart disease is the number one side effect of a diabetic diagnosis.
What's your day like? Like, I want to get into your head and what is your day when you get up? Do you have like a daily practice, non-negotiables? Like, what does that look like in your world?
You know, my non-negotiable, I have 4 cats. So the non-negotiable is get out of bed and feed them. But as soon as my eyes open, I literally do gratitude for at least 5-10 minutes. Just like, here's what my day is going to look like. Thank you for the sleep. I love my pillow. I love, it just gets me in a headspace of where I want to be vibrationally. So after I do the cats, I often, in my office here, I have a yoga mat and blocks, and I just grab a Peloton yoga class for 20 minutes. Or I have an aerial yoga swing, it's called. It's like a scarf that hangs from the ceiling. Sometimes I just go down there and put on music and I just swing, stretch, flip upside down, and then it's time to get started. I will not have coffee or anything for 12 hours from the last drink I had, or, drink dinner, whatever I've had, because there is a lot of evidence that says the more rest we give our body between meals, especially overnight, the better for metabolism of the next day's food and all the other things that go with it. I mean, you've heard of intermittent fasting. The 12-hour thing is like the bare minimum that they would consider fasting, but it's what I want to do. I really don't want to go do more than that. So I love coffee. I probably have a cup and a half a day, though. I'm not, drinking it all day. I have a healthy breakfast. For me is either apples and peanut butter, or we have chickens. So I love to have a couple of scrambled eggs with some melon or some kind of fruit. Lunch is one of those things, I'm usually working from home, so I keep soup in the fridge. I might have, I don't make a big deal of it, but dinner I cook because I used to be a chef, and my husband, we like to sit down and have dinner. And I know they say, eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. So we should have all our calories, like most of our calories, done for dinner. By dinner, I can't. I like to sit down and have a nice meal. So I'm not perfect. I enjoy wine. That's the other thing. It's, I'm not a hard and fast, you have to do this to be healthy. I'm a listen to your body and see what feels good. Now, granted, sometimes too much ice cream feels really good. I'm not talking about that kind of feels good. I'm talking about over a period of time, I have figured out what food really works for me, how late I can stay up. I'm in bed by 9:15 usually. I have a big yoga ball. And if I'm in the house, every night before I go to bed, I lay back over it to do a heart opening exercise and give my spine the opposite of what I do every day, which is, we're all sitting like this. And then I just go into bed and I read and I sleep. And that's it. So, I forgot the exercise. So today I did a 20-minute Peloton bike ride, and I have what I just got for Christmas is a vibration plate, which is something you stand on that oscillates at different speeds and, crazinesses. And it's good for your bones and for your core strength. So I'm just learning how to use that. That was really fun. So I did that for 15 minutes today. So I would say 5 days a week I exercise, but I'm a person that doesn't sit still well. So I get a lot of movement in my day.
Do you think you'll have a book, like a cooking book, like a healthy?
No. People used to always ask me for recipes, and when I worked for the restaurant, I had to make recipes because we were going to be a chain, so every cook had to make the thing the same way. I'm not good giving people recipes because I don't cook from recipes anymore, but I do have a book coming in. Well, it isn't planned coming, like there's a date, but I'm working on a book which, using my tagline, which is aging happens, don't let it ruin your life. So so the first book was the perimenopause, transition into menopause, and the myths about being healthy. This one's more like, what does the science say now? What should we really be focusing on? And then, of course, it'll be a mind, body, spirit. They're all one thing to me. So it will encompass those. No
Yeah.
books, no cookbooks for you, Agnes. Sorry.
Man, I'll try. So talking about mind, body, and spirit, I have to touch. For some reason, I'm gravitating, and even when I was doing my research on your background and everything, I kept going back to the Divine Wild Ride. So did you do reading? I'm trying to figure out here, Greg. Like you
Yeah,
did? Okay.
I do. I haven't done one in a while. I'm thinking of revitalizing it, but I did Akashic readings. And the reason I like to do them, either a full reading or just to give people their life, the type, which of the categories they fall into, and their definite kind of identifies their personality, like why you are who you are, is that when I'm coaching, I think it anchors people to know this one aspect. It's like people get a horoscope reading, an astrology reading. They might get their palm read. There's human design. Everybody's different, but I know a lot of people like something as a starting point that tells them who they are in the world. Even though they know who they are, they want something other than them to tell them. So then when if I was coaching somebody, it was a way, if they felt stuck or otherwise, to go back and say, well, you came in with this characteristic, which is a strength of yours. How can we use that? And I love coaching. I mean, coaching is, like podcasting is great. All this stuff is great, but coaching somebody and seeing their lives change to me, it's magic. There's nothing better. So yeah. And that picture, I have to tell you a quick story. When I had the artist, the picture of the beach is my picture.
Yeah.
I took that picture. The woman on the horse I found somewhere. Anyway, I said, I have to have a hummingbird in the photo somewhere, even though it's at the beach, because I'm a hummingbird. I have hummingbirds everywhere. It's a hummingbird thing. So he sent me the first draft of the thing, and I wrote back and I said, I love the hummingbird. And he said, what do you mean the hummingbird? There's 5 hummingbirds in that picture. I was like, 5 hummingbirds? I didn't even notice. No, he did. They're out now, but I didn't even notice that. He said, I just didn't know where to put it. So I put 5 in. I said, okay, leave that one. And then later that day, I opened my email and it said something like that. It was a piece of artwork for a new album from Spotify or something. It was called The 5 Hummingbirds. I was like, oy, oy, oy. Okay. I don't know what it is with these 5 hummingbirds, but I was just having all these synchronicities about hummingbirds. And so I left that little hummingbird in that picture because they were just showing up everywhere. And they're fierce little devils. That's one of the reasons I like the hummingbird too, is that they're tiny but powerful.
Yes, we have 2 in our backyard. They come,
Oh,
and which is weird because from what I understand, they're very territorial. And you
oh
usually
yeah.
have one that kind of like comes in, and we have like a sweet water.
Mm-hmm.
But there's 2, and they come in different directions, and sometimes they kind of
Oh.
talk. I don't know what they're saying, and then they go. So it's cute to watch.
I love watching them. Yeah. 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 And the Divine Wild Ride coaching is really, it's life coaching. I mean, that's where I started. It's really a love of mine. I think health coaching is life coaching. Business coaching is life coaching. Like everything comes down to how we think about what we do every day and then how we do it. And I feel a little bit like a wild creature. So that's why I like that Divine Wild Ride.
I know, I like it. And I mean,
Thank
and
you.
everything that you are doing, from the copywriting podcast to your life coaching, to nutrition, I mean, they all connect, they're just,
Absolutely.
I like,
Yeah, I'm glad you recognize that, because sometimes it feels like, am I great? My husband one day said to me not too long ago, how many businesses do you have right now? I was like, just
I think
2.
they all fit under the umbrella that you just have.
The umbrella of me. Yeah.
Yes, there's no,
Like I'm using my skills in 4 different ways, and that's fine with me.
I know, you're just very creative. I love it. Is
Thank
there
you.
anything else that you would like to add, or this that perhaps we didn't touch on today?
I would just like to say to anybody listening, including yourself with all this popcorn of symptoms and changes and thinking about your life, that you are incredibly valuable no matter what your physiology is doing. No matter what the conversation is out in the world about menopause and now you're not going to be attractive, or you're too old to get a job you love, or you'll never find love. it's all just noise that we need to shut out because it can be very damaging. We're hard on ourselves as it is when we look in the mirror, or we're having a hot flash in the middle of a meeting, or just try to be with it and love yourself, because this is going to sound corny and cliched, but love is truly the only healing balm. It's the only thing that moves us. It just is. It's it. That's it. Just love yourself.
I love that. My word this year is great. I feel anxious. Right? Finding that pause
Mm-hmm.
and great. When I have the hot flash, pause and find great. Do you have a word for 2023?
This year's word is love, not surprisingly.
I like it.
Yeah, I was driving through Pennsylvania, and I got detoured, and I was going to make my drive longer. And I was trying to find some grace in the moment. And I just looked around at me, and I just felt this extraordinary amount of love. It was beautiful. There was rolling fields and the sun was out. And it was almost like this overwhelming sense that love is everywhere. So I thought, okay, that's my word.
What is the best way for our listeners to reach out to you if they want to work with you?
Thank you for asking. Gregory at rebelliouswellnessover50.com is where you can just send an email to Gregory at, or on Instagram and Facebook, I'm RebelWell50. You can DM me, send me a message there. And there's never, we can talk. Some people say, like, I don't want to get on the phone with somebody, they're going to do the hard sell. I can't sell anybody anything until I know who the person is and whether I'm the right person for them. So I tend not to sell people, never on a first call anyway. But I know that there are people that would benefit from having a conversation. So I invite people to have conversations. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening. Please visit the website at www.leveluptribes.com. And please subscribe to the podcast and share with your family and friends. Be sure to tune in to our next episode. Catch you all next time, my beloved tribes.